What's the deal, y'all? This your man King Eric, the media assassin, coming at y'all with another video. So apparently, I watched the whole series of the Vince McMahon documentary titled "Mr. McMahon," and I'm gonna just go ahead and say this, man. If you a casual fan, this is really what this is aimed for. This is really the aim for a non-wrestling fan audience. Because if you're a fan of this wrestling thing, 95% of the stuff you already know. They're not really breaking any new ground. Now, what it looks like to me, this looked like a definite fluff piece because you could tell by the way this thing was shot that this was going to be a fluff piece about Vince McMahon's life and all the stuff that he's gotten through. It's like, oh, Vince McMahon had to dig at his heels and become a billionaire. It's that whole conquer all success story shit that he been pushing for damn near 50 years. And this was going to be no exception. The only difference is it's basically that McMahon kayfabe documentary that he dropped in 2006. The only difference is it got a bigger budget and it's exposed to a different, more detail. It's kind of like the WWE's deal with A&E. Like when they doing these biographies, they're basically the same biographies that we've seen already that the WWE released the years prior, but the difference is they're just more updated. And it's no different here with the McMahon story. I mean, one thing I do like about, first of all, I love the archives. I love the content. I love the historical context that they pretty much talked about. Like they talked about Vince's rise to being a promoter. You know what? Purging promotions to start WrestleMania, how he went from broke start WrestleMania, then how Hulkamania kicked things in full gear, and why he has a soft spot for Hulk Hogan, because without Hulk Hogan, there is no WWF. You also get a taste of the ruthless side of Vince McMahon when it comes to his company and when it comes to maintaining it. Then you see that with the screw job. You see that with the way he handled WCW. But see, it still came across like you're not really learning as much from Vince McMahon. Like he's still guarded. And he's not gonna give you so much. There's only so much that you're gonna get out of Vince McMahon. It's to the point where he's like the Joker. You don't know if he's Mr. McMahon or Vince McMahon. It's like a confusion of people. But I could tell this was gonna be a fluff piece at first because just the way it was shot. It was basically they did bring up the steroid scandal. They did bring up the Ring Boy scandal. They bring up the alleged rapes that happened. But a lot of that, for the most part, they didn't really focus on. They just put it as blemishes. Now, what I like also that Bret Hart and Tony Atlas were the balances of the praise that Vince got, because you could tell they spent a pretty penny on this shit. Like, you got Austin, you got Rock, you got Hogan, you got Phil Mushnick, old bitch ass, you got Bret up there, you got Shawn up there, you got Triple H up there. They spent a pretty penny to get this thing and Stephanie, Linda, everybody. Cena, the list goes on. Trish. You could tell they spent a lot of money and time and resources in putting this thing together. And they couldn't just let it sit because you want to recoup on your investment. And I could tell they started shooting this thing about 2019, 2020, I believe. And when the scandal hit, they had to pretty much stop filming completely. And plus, Vince didn't really want a lot of that stuff to be filmed. Because, interviewing Vince McMahon and doing a documentary on Vince McMahon is going to be complicated within himself. There's a lot of shit he ain't going to even tell you. There's a lot of cap involved with that. There's like the whole thing with the Bret Hart contract. He explained the loopholes of Bret Hart's contract. That's cap right there, because you had the money. Because if that was the case, why would you try to get an Ultimate Warrior $1 million a year and bring him back in 1997? He had the money, but the reality was he had already chosen to click over Bret. And he felt more comfortable with moving with Shawn Michaels going into the Attitude Era because Bret, he was rejecting the Attitude Era anyway. So they figured, okay, we'll go with Shawn since Shawn is more approaching to the idea. And it wasn't the right thing to do. I still stand on that, but I knew they was going to tackle the screw job. But then they tackled the Chris Benoit stuff. And see, even within, they try to put a bright spot on that shit. Like bringing that Chris Nowitzki dude, talk about it was Vince McMahon that made the call to change things. It was Vince McMahon that made the call to check and look out for the wrestlers and all this stuff, right? So that wasn't really a focus point for too long. But then on episode 6, that's where it took a dark turn. They started talking about the scandals and stuff like that. But if anything, it kind of make Vince McMahon more respected based off the way this thing is shot. Because look at the eras and the entertainment that he brought, and it's gonna make it like, damn, we can't let this dude go. He brought us Austin versus Rock. He brought us Austin versus McMahon. Brought Mike Tyson. Brought Mr. T. Brought WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw. We can't let this dude go. So if anything, this may work on Vince McMahon's favor. Even though right now it doesn't look that good on his favor in public opinion, this documentary may help him. Now it didn't help Wonders either that he tried to get it shut down. But overall, if you looking at this from a casual point, this is actually enjoyable. But if you look at it from a wrestling fan standpoint, you're not gonna learn anything new at all. Like, the only things I really learned new was the situation with Vince and Shane and how Shane McMahon is seen as the black sheep of the family. Also, about the situation involving Vince and Bret's contract. And also the funny part about it, too, was how Vince was able to manipulate the public into being this mom and pop company going against this corporate backed WCW and made people feel sorry for him. But yet in reality, man, you purged all these companies and built your shit, man. Like, cut it out, man. Cut it out. But you're not gonna gain any new ground. And then I like what they talked about the Undertaker, how he was up there. Now, the Undertaker had blind loyalty to Vince McMahon, and you could tell that just by the way you could see him talking to him, especially with the Brock Lesnar thing. It's crazy how they even believe the Undertaker didn't even catch a concussion that night. They say that Mark was so shocked and he was so traumatized that he couldn't even focus on the match. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. That man caught a concussion. Taker's eyes were glazed through that whole night, man. See, Vince does a lot of capping. It's a lot of capping on this thing, dude. That's for sure. But overall, it served its purpose. It did the best that it could. I mean, given the information that Vince was giving you, you can only do so much with it because he's not going to tell you everything. So you got to get it out a certain way. And plus, he's so heavily guarded. But that's my thoughts about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe, hit the like button. Peace.